this tragic incident actually inadvertently highlighted institutionalized racism. To be specific, disciplinaries and the disproportionality between black people and white people. For example, there are many parts, or some parts rather, within the NHS where black people are actually 10 times more likely to be disciplined than their white counterparts, notwithstanding the fact that the BMA in 2022 stated that there is a danger of a mass exodus of Asian and black staff within the NHS due to the persistent and intolerant racism. So this nuance that everyone's so outraged about, it's real, it's there, and it's actually, it's kind of underlined within this particular story. So therefore, it would be remiss not to speak about it.
Can I just give you a couple of examples recently where it is argued that racism is now turning against white people? We had Sadiq Khan, the London Mayor's poster, being told that it didn't represent Londoners because it was a white family. We had the England football team with one commentator saying it's too white. We had the royal family on Buckingham Palace being told it was too white. I am all in support of diversity. I don't want discrimination on any side. But I am seeing this narrative turn in a way now where we have to start to call out some of these statements which are frankly racist against people who are white. And how do we move forward without that division?
Sorry to interrupt. I appreciate your sentiment. I truly do. But where has your outrage been when black people have been talking about institutionalized racism, covert racism, overt racism for the last 50 years in this country?
I was with you.
Where was your outrage?
I've been outraged.
Where was your outrage? You want to
I
talk
have
about
been
outrage now in regards to black people being racist or racially prejudiced towards white people, when in actual fact it is actually a defence mechanism towards white people. Let me not get too excited today.
But the point is that
Let me finish my point, Kev. Let me finish my point, please. The pendulum has swung the other way. And what you are witnessing, what we have been conditioned and what we have kind of come to accept is white supremacy and the norms of geopolitics, which connects to white supremacy. We are all very much conditioned in a certain way. And so what we've seen right now...
It sounds like... let me take issue with that. Come on, we've listened very carefully to what you have to say, because we all have to open our minds to this. But what does moving forward look like? Because I think from what you've said is, why weren't we outraged? I have been outraged about discrimination. You don't know what my position has been on this for the last 30 years. You have no idea. What I'm saying is, if I can... No, let me finish. Let me finish. If you go back to Martin Luther King's speech, which is moving to everybody.
Should we move forward and start from now, shall we?
Well, let's move forward. No, let's move forward to his vision, because he was an inspirational man that has made huge changes from which we have all benefited. And his point was, let's move to a world where somebody is judged on the character, not the colour of their skin. And I think, forgive me if I'm misquoting you, but I think what you've just said is, we've had it bad for so long, so now you have to suffer. Well, two wrongs do not make a right.
You have completely misunderstood everything that I've said, so let me correct you. I'm ultimately trying to explain to you that black people and brown people had to contend with racism in this country for an extremely long time. And what we are seeing now is people standing up for themselves, people using their voice, people defending themselves. And what has happened is now the supposed oppressor, because there are many, let's be honest with ourselves, if we talk about geopolitics, there are many people who wish to dominate the world and dominate different types of people. We are only talking about white people in this specific instance. But ultimately, it comes down to the fact that people are defending themselves and people are outraged as a result. So this is the dynamic that we're dealing with. This is the dichotomy that you seem to be confused about. But that is what's happening right now. A defense mechanism and people now being vocal about how they feel. Thank God, due to the Black Lives Matter movement.
Imarn, let's talk about the specifics. Let's talk about the specifics here. The country is united in its horror at what Lucy Letby did in that hospital and the fact that she was overlooked. The doctors who cried wolf, the doctors who complained, the doctors who were ignored, who were by NHS managers, they haven't said at all we were not listened to because some of them were black. None of them said Lucy Letby got away with it because she was a white English rose. They said she got away with it because the NHS, as ever, was more concerned about reputational damage. Nobody but Shola and you are bringing race into this. No,
I've just explained to you the Royal College of Nursing.
No, we're talking about Lucy Letby. No, hang on, we're talking about Lucy Letby.
Yes, okay, so let me
You are the
explain.
only ones that I'm
Firstly,
aware of have brought race into it.
No, not at all. I've already explained. Race was already a part of this dynamic due to the stats that I've already told you about, and due to the fact that racial prejudice is a part of society. And this is what's happened with our country, is that we are so, or let me not say we, I'm actually going to say many white people are so outraged about being called racist as opposed to the racism itself. The reality is racial prejudice is a part of every human being on this planet. The reality is you cannot avoid it unless you are anti-racist. So racial prejudice will always play a role in every dynamic unless you are making a conscious decision to do otherwise, hence why we call it anti-racism.
Unless, Imarn, unless we move forward to a place where we stop being preoccupied by melanin and we start looking at character. And that's the future I want us to live in, where, like my children, they don't see colour. Kids don't see colour. They will come home from
You don't
school.
want to start with that, Beth. You really don't want to start with that.
Oh, I'm happy to start with that. I'm happy to start with that.
Because that tells me straight away that you categorically are lying. You are lying if you're saying that you don't see colour.
I've had conversations with my children when they were little, when they were describing to me something that happened to a child in their school, and they're saying, you know who I mean, and they don't say skin colour. And when they said, you mean this guy? I said, oh, you mean the black girl in your class? Yes, her. They didn't see it. They didn't see that as a distinguishing characteristic to describe to me who they were talking about. And I love that. But they lose that as they get older because the conditioning is strong. I agree with you. The conditioning is powerful.
That tried to combat racism. Have you seen that documentary?
Yes, where they run down the football pitch and they say, yes, I have seen it. It's powerful.
Right. And it showed within schools that racial prejudice was unconscious. Internalized racism was unconscious. If you saw it, how can you sit here and tell me otherwise if you watched the same program that I did, Bev?
Because what I want us to do is find the solutions. And the solution is not to create discrimination against white people.
The solution is to accept that everyone has racial prejudice unless you are anti-racist.
So, Imarn, do you have racial prejudice?
Otherwise, circumnavigate that prejudice.
Imarn, do you have?
That's your answer.
Do you have racial prejudice?
I've made a conscious decision to make sure I circumnavigate prejudice.
But you said everybody has it. You said everybody has it.
Prejudice is a preconceived opinion. Andrew, prejudice is a preconceived opinion. This is where you've almost kind of decided to hold on to racism, the big bad.
So we have it as white people, but you don't.
Pacifist lies.
So we have it as white people, but you don't.
No, I never said that. Please listen to what I've just said. Every human being on this planet has racial prejudice. The reason why is because prejudice is a normal dynamic, a part of human beings. It is a preconceived opinion about things, people, and places. And the only way that you can circumnavigate said preconception is to make a conscious decision to do otherwise, to change your behavior, to change your thoughts, to change your feelings. This is why people talk about anti-racism. And this is what you are getting confused with. So everyone has it, but you need to make a conscious decision not to. And the parallel is sexism. The parallel is transphobia. The parallel is anti-Semitism. You make a conscious decision not to be anti-Semitic. You make a conscious decision not to be sexist. You make a conscious decision not to be Islamophobic. Sorry, you got me so excited. I've got such a dry mouth at the moment.
Don't worry. Listen,
this is a great conversation.
We love the debate here.
Understand racial prejudice and don't be scared. That's the point.
This is what GB News does, right? We don't mind having the difficult conversations. I love strong women on this channel. I love strong black women on this channel. I do. I do. And these are the conversations we have to have.
I like strong black women and strong white women, just so you know.
But what I want to have, I don't feel, what I want to see is the solutions. I want to see how we move forward to a time when you come on here and you're not just here because you want to talk about racial issues, so that's what you represent. I don't want that.
You need to tell your producers that. Social commentator. Good Morning Britain actually has me as a social commentator. So that's a note for your producers. I agree with you, Bev. I would love to be able to be on this channel.
But you're so good on this topic. I'm sure there are lots of other topics we could talk to you about, but you are so good and so passionate about this topic, and that's what we strive for. We strive for people on this channel who can represent their views powerfully, and you do.
But can I just ask, going back again to where we started, do you genuinely think Letby got away with it, was able to kill 7 children because she was white?
To an extent.
What
racial
extent?
Prejudice.
What extent?
So, There were many factors. I broke it down before, but I'll just say it very briefly. There are many factors, like I said, the hospital being inadequate, poor leadership, like you said, the issues within the NHS, budget, overworked. All of these things are factors that should be taken into consideration, just like racial prejudice and the byproduct, which is white privilege, which is connected to institutionalized racism. All of these things should be taken into consideration. That is my point, and that is the only part I differ in terms of my opinion with Shola. Shola has said that there is no other reason other than the fact that she's white. I have said that there are many reasons.